Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. And also, welcome, Scott Johnson. How's it going?
I'm good. Welcome to 2020, the year that Patrick and I do an episode of Pixels in the January month.
So it's just like every other year, I suppose.
Yeah.
Although maybe not in January.
Yeah. I don't know when the last time we did one was, but it certainly wasn't January.
Or maybe it was. Oh, the last one. Yes. No. Okay. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So I'm Patrick Beja, and this is Pixels, and we talk about games. And oh boy, do we have a wonderful program for you today, because we're going to go over all the things that we know and expect in the world of gaming for 2020. And then we'll have some games we've been playing, and then some news. And 2020, let me tell you, Scott Johnson, looks amazing and crazy. I've dubbed it the Year of Madness. Not the Year of Madden. That's a different kind of year. Although I guess maybe there will be a Madden this year.
There's
too.
always every year is Madden. Is the year
That's
of
true.
Madden? Yeah.
Which does not speaks to me probably even less than Pokemon. So that's how little I care about the Year of Madness. Madden.
I used to care, but back when they had competition, I liked football games because there was a chance that one year another brand would be a better game, and so I could kind of go back and forth and play the best one. And EA was more motivated to innovate, and now they kind of they're the only ones. So I hate that. So I don't play it anymore.
Also, I feel Madden is popular in America and nowhere else, but that's an entirely different conversation. This year is packed. I mean, packed, especially the first half. The second half is kind of like there's the black hole of June that nothing has gotten out of. We'll talk about that. But first, we're going to go month by month, if that works for you.
Sure.
And we'll see what we think about each of those. So strap in, get ready for the ride. Maybe not a lifetime, but maybe of your day. Maybe that's going to be the ride of your day.
Yeah, of January on this day, this will be the best ride you had. And I would like to just real quick here shock you real quick by saying,
okay,
my current game addiction is Modern Warfare, and I don't know why. I don't know what's happened.
You're not the only person who's said that. Call of Duty has really captured a lot of people back, I guess.
Yeah. I think they got back to what the player. Well, they got back to their roots. It's the tightest, cleanest, most polished, beautiful it's ever been, and the campaign is back. So you get that again. The multiplayer has never been better. I'm completely swept in. I'm loving it. Right.
Well, we'll talk about that in the second part of the show when we talk about the games we've been playing. But first, January 2020. Here are the releases that I noted. There are maybe others that are important to you. If they're not mentioned, I apologize. But those are probably on most people's lists. So let's get started. January 9th, which is today, Monster Hunter Iceborne comes to PC. It's already been out on PS4, so that's maybe less of a huge release. Yakuza Like a Dragon comes out in Japan on the 16th and worldwide later this year. That's notable because Yakuza has been kind of one of those under-the-radar, niche following, devoted fan base series for a while, and increasingly so. And this one is a whole new setting, a new start. So it might be one of those things that catches fire, that transforms the series into something much more popular than it's been until now. And then on the 28th, we have Warcraft 3 Reforged, which missed its window of 2019. And so it's coming out just a few weeks late on the 28th. So this is January. Scott, what are you looking forward to, if anything?
Funny enough, out of all the three you've mentioned, the Yakuza game is the most interesting to me. Now, the fact that it's coming in Japan first and we don't have the localized US version, I can wait for that. But I've gained an appreciation for those games on Steam. They keep releasing really good versions of those games, great localization. They took the original game and remastered it, which was a great way for people to sort of get in and see what this is all about. I guess this new one features turn-based combat, which is a little bit weird for the series. It's known for its real-time combat, so I'm a little on the fence on that. But I find those Yakuza games super fascinating and fun to play and weird as crap and very all the kind of the Japanese sensibilities that I love the most in video games all seem to be sort of present in the Yakuza series. So I'm actually, of all those, I'm more excited about that. People would have guessed, oh, probably Warcraft 3. He hasn't played that in a long time. Warcraft. And I'm having a hard time getting that motivated about Warcraft because A, I played it to death back in the day, and B, I just am not in an RTS space right now. I just can't get myself to care about it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will look forward to Warcraft 3, but you're right. Yakuza is such a weird, different thing. It's, for those who don't know, it is a Sega game that kind of inherits a lot from the spirit of Virtua Fighter. It's actually parts of the same teams. It's almost the evolution, not really, but it's also a game about, well, the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, and it's set in a specific neighborhood of Tokyo, which is called Kabukicho in real life, but Kamurocho in the game. And it's got this very specific Japaneseness, and it's like a double A game, so it's not like the kind of polish you would expect from a huge release, but it's got some incredible cutscenes and like very detailed cutscenes and well crafted and a lot of interest. It's quite one of those open world games. It's basically, if you want to draw very, very approximative comparison lines, it's kind of the GTA of Japan. And you can do like go to karaoke, have own bars, manage them, have girlfriends, and the story is compelling. So that is like a weird thing that doesn't quite exist anywhere else in that flavor. So I can see how you and many other people would be looking forward to it.
Yeah, they're fun. The last one I played, and I honestly, if I could tell you what the subtitle was, I would, but I don't know it. I don't remember. But I really enjoyed it. It was fun. The only complaint I had is the save. There's no auto save system in it, so
yeah, you have to go to those phone booths.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't tell you that. You're not really prompted to do it. There's probably old Yakuza fans who've known this forever, but I didn't know that. And I ended up playing like 2.5 hours of that game without saving, died, and then started over. But I liked it enough to keep going. I really did like it, and your comparison to GTA, Japan's GTA is a fairly good one. That's a good comparison.
Yeah. But the only thing you don't get is cars, essentially.
yeah, pretty much. You run everywhere, but yeah, it's a fun, over the top, cheesy thing that I'm glad exists.
There you go. Scott likes a Japanese thing. That's a first. And they're coming to Game Pass, I believe. They're being released one at a time. The first and second episodes were remastered, and that's the Yakuza 1 and 2 Kiwami. And they're coming like weeks apart. I think the first one is already available or something like that. So if you have Game Pass on the console, on Xbox, you already have access to at least one or two of them. So yeah, look forward to that. February, the weird media molecule project Dreams, which is already available in beta, is coming on the 14th. And by the way, that game, you can buy it now at a reduced price because it's still in beta. It will be full price when it comes out. It's more of a platform than really just a game. Street Fighter V Champion Edition is coming on the 14th as well. That's an update to Street Fighter V, which includes all of the DLC. It's actually already available for those who own Street Fighter V as an add-on, but it will be released as a kind of boxed one bundle product on the 14th of February. On the 18th, there's a Bayonetta and Vanquish special edition that are coming. That's older games that are also very much cult followed, maybe even more Vanquish. I think Bayonetta is more well known in the West, but Vanquish has a cult following here certainly, and that's those platinum games that started it all. Persona 5 Scramble is coming out on the 20th, and that's so in the world of Persona 5, a Dynasty Warriors type game is the closest thing you can approximate with. And then on the 28th, Iron Man VR is coming to the PlayStation VR as an exclusive, maybe timed exclusive, but at least for now it's PlayStation VR and maybe forever. I don't know that for certain. They haven't communicated on this. And people have been saying that it's kind of a good game, surprisingly. It's compelling being Iron Man in VR. So
I think that looks really cool. Everything I've seen about it seems neat. Everyone's always chasing down what is the killer app for VR. So far, I feel like Beat Saber is the only thing close enough to what you would refer to as a cross-platform killer app everyone has to have. But it'd be nice to see one of these more narrative-driven games, even if it is for a big giant property everybody knows. It'd be nice to see one of those gain some traction. So I'd love to see that. But as far as the month goes, I think the one I'm most interested in watching, having already played Bayonetta and Vanquished, I think Dreams is the most interesting. It's been in sort of early access beta forever, and really interesting things come out of that. Those Media Molecule guys are insane. And I want to see what that looks like in its final form. That being said, I'm a terrible person to try to get to buy console games in the year that we're getting new consoles. I'm terrible. Like I my brain turns off. It's a little like getting a new phone. As soon as a new phone's announced, the one in my pocket seems old and busted. And that's how it feels right now. Like my PlayStation is as soon as that PlayStation 5 was announced, or the Xbox Series X was announced, in both cases I just went, oh well, I no longer care about my consoles. I will wait until those new things come out. I'm not spending a dime on any other games until then. I don't know why I do that. It's a weird thing.
No, it's understandable. I think the backwards compatibility of the next consoles makes that purchasing decision a little bit easier in this generation, or the next one at least. And there are a lot of compelling games we're going to get to, which I think might get you to rethink that policy. But Dreams certainly is a weird one. For those who don't know, Dreams is kind of a more of a tool than a game. There will be a game experience in it, but anyone can create basically anything, mostly games, but experiences. And the things that people have created in that early access beta, because the game is available, it was available to a select number of creators before. It's become available to a wider public now for a few months, and people create incredible things. Mostly, it seems what's been getting headlines is recreating something that approximates something that exists, or in a franchise that people like. But I'm very curious to see what people will make with it. I think I'm going to get it just to have it at that reduced price and see what happens once it's out, especially since there will be a single player, like a campaign type thing. But it is certainly one of those intriguing projects that people in the know keep an eye on. I don't know how mainstream is going to get, though. And Iron Man VR, I also agree. I'm looking forward to. I don't think it's going to be anything like a killer app. It's going to be something that people who already own the PlayStation VR are going to be interested in, especially if they like Marvel, like I do. But still, the same issues of PlayStation VR apply. You have to plug it back in, probably charge the controllers, all of that crap. So We'll see how that goes.
Sure.
March.
I'd like to see that on the Quest, by the way.
The what? Oh, yeah, on the Quest. That would be awesome. For sure.
That would be great.
So March is the really crazy year. Like May isn't bad either, but April, like now we're entering the 3 months of craziness. On the 3rd, Final Fantasy VII Remake. On the 11th, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. On the 13th, Neo 2. On the 20th, Doom Eternal, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. On the 31st, Persona 5 the Royal, which is coming out worldwide. It's already available in Japan. And sometime in March, Half-Life Alyx, which, again, we were talking about VR. You wanted the killer app. There you go.
Yeah, I'm most excited about 2 of these games. Maybe 3. Doom Eternal is on my list for sure, but I kind of know what I'm going to get there. But Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a highly anticipated title for me. Again, that will not be on a console. I'll play that on my PC and will be part of Game Pass. It's already there for preload, so I'm very excited about that. Same goes for, there's something else that month that's coming there. But anyway, the other one this is not going to be a shock to you. Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's all I care about. It is the game of March. It is 100% the one I want to play the most. My Switch Lite is ready. It's got a big open hole ready for it to land and install itself. Let's go. I'm ready.
That's, I was mentioning Pokemon, joking that it's not a game for me. I think Animal Crossing, New Horizons, well, Animal Crossing in general is a thing I just don't get.
Yeah.
But I mean, lots of people love it, and that's great. It's just, I don't, it's not for me. But I know you're a big fan, so that's cool.
I don't know why it's so for me. It just is and always has been. And I've always been intrigued by it. I can't get enough of it. I try to find games like it in the meantime. Like I spend all year going, oh, what's something like this? Because they're not doing another one for a while. And then when they finally do one, I just soak it in. My kids all love it. So we all sort of like swap stuff in the game and visit each other's towns and all that. And it's
Yeah.
just, I can't get enough of it. I love it, love it. So, and everything I've seen from it so far looks like this one's a real step up from previous iterations. It looks super strong. And
Yeah.
that's all I care about in March, honestly. I wish I care. I mean, I care about all these things, but that is my number one, weirdly.
You're certainly not the only person waiting to be ripped off by that crook Tom Nook, the mayor, who will, yeah.
I'm screwed. He's taking all my money. That's what he does.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm surprisingly waiting for it. And it's one of my anticipated things. Not the most, but I thought I would not really care about it because I never care about, I rarely care about old things being made new, especially in the world of gaming, because I've played them before, just like you said, for Warcraft 3. But I'm kind of curious to see how they're reimagining it. There's a demo that should drop fairly soonish. There's tons of leaks that have been that we've been seeing about a demo coming fairly soon, and it looks like kind of like Resident Evil 2 was a really good remake of the original one. This one looks like a reimagining that a lot of people will be interested in getting their hands on. So that's one I'm going to be looking forward to. But honestly, it's like kind of like you. Well, maybe not for Animal Crossing, but Doom Eternal. I know what I'm going to get, but I really can't wait. The 2016 Doom is so like you get a specific type of experience that you don't really get anywhere else, and my buddy is ready for it. And it looks like Doom 2016 on steroids in adrenaline mode, and that's something I'm really excited for.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I am super excited about that game. I think that my current obsession with all things shooters, like I've not only have I been playing Modern Warfare, but I've been playing a lot of I've been revisiting and playing my brain just went dead. Star Wars Battlefront 2. That game's real good, by the way, and has done nothing but get better since its very controversial launch. But anyway, I'm just in the shooter frame of mind. I hope in March I'm still feeling that way because I also look forward to Doom Eternal. I can't wait for the game.
And then there's Half-Life VR, which it's kind of a peculiar thing for me because I have an Oculus Quest and I can link it to my PC via the link, functionality, but my PC is not powerful enough to run it. However, in February, Shadow PC is going to release an update to its service. That's the cloud gaming PC, which you can install anything on. And there are ways to play VR on those devices, on those services, I guess. And the update is going to include a 2080 RTX 2080 graphics card. So the computer is going to be a lot more powerful, and it is definitely going to be able to run the kind of games that require a lot of power, like Half-Life Alyx. So we'll see how well it runs, but I'm definitely going to try it because I don't think I'm going to upgrade my PC by then. Maybe next year I will, but if the Shadow PC works well enough, and it kind of does already now, the latency even from Finland, because the servers are, I guess, all over Europe, but not in the country, it is definitely playable, so we'll see how well it works. But if it does work well enough, I might hold off on buying on another PC for a little while longer. So we'll see. But
I should mention too that Alyx is planned for multi-platform release, just not that first launch. The first launch is Steam VR launch, and then
No,
later
no,
they've
no,
got.
no. It's available for everything. It's going to be available for all the headsets, just not the Quest itself. But if you have, you connect it to your PC with the Link functionality, your Quest is considered to be a Rift, and that works. But my problem is my PC isn't beefy enough to run it. That's the
No, I
problem.
get it. I was under the. I must have misheard. I thought they had said that the Quest was a lock, that they were doing a version for the Quest and, as a standalone unit, not linked. So I got that.
It isn't.
That's
Yeah.
bad info. I got bad info.
It's they want to sell this thing as much as possible, and certainly the Valve VR headsets aren't numerous enough for that. I mean, it's not going to be available on PlayStation VR either, obviously. But
Right.
so that's March. That's already a big one. Then April, Resident Evil 3 remake on the 3rd, Cyberpunk 2077 on the 16th.
Yeah.
Trials of Mana remake, another remake. That's Seiken Densetsu 3 for those Super Nintendo or Super Famicom fans out there. On the 24th, I remember playing that. Oh my God. It was like Final Fantasy 3, which was actually Final Fantasy 6 in Japan, and Seiken Densetsu were the two most incredible RPGs of that era. Gears Tactics on the 28th, and at some point in April, Minecraft Dungeons, which looks surprisingly cool. It's a Diablo-like in Minecraft style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks cool. From what I can tell, like, I don't care about regular Minecraft at all at this point. I'm sort of done with that. But I would be all down with this whole thing. I love action RPGs. This could be pretty neat. The graphics look neat. It looks very actiony. It's the 3/4 view, which I like. I like voxels. In theory, this is for me. So I'm pretty jazzed about that game. Actually, of everything you've mentioned so far for that month, outside of Cyberpunk, that one's maybe the most interesting to me. Gears Tactics a little bit, because I like tactics games. It just needs to be good. But as far as that being the IP for a tactics game, I don't know. That may not work, or it may. But Minecraft Dungeons is high on my list. Excited about it.
There are a lot of people anticipating Resident Evil 3, but of course, Cyberpunk 2077, we can't swerve to avoid it, even if we try. That's going to be on everyone's playlists come April 16. I'm one of the very few people in the world who didn't love The Witcher 3, so I don't have that emotional attachment to CD Projekt as a developer. And I'm very intrigued, very interested in Cyberpunk 2077. The world, the mood, the design, everything looks cool. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna love it or like it. But and I'm also not into like immersive sims, which this seems to be. Not so much. So it might not be the game for me, but there are always in genres that I don't necessarily adore, there are games that are so seminal that you end up liking them anyway, or loving them even. And that might be it for me. But it's certainly possibly the most anticipated game of 2020, right?
Yeah, what's weird is The Witcher 3 is currently enjoying this incredible resurgence, partly due to the TV show, partly due to a $10
entirely due to the TV show.
I think part of it is there was a sale. Also, I have a lot of friends who are like, yeah, I picked it up again because I've forgotten how much I liked it, and all this talk about it made me go, hey, I should play The Witcher. So there's a lot of that going on. So Steam had like this concurrent playership of the highest a single player game they've ever had, and also higher than the game has ever been, including its launch, which is just insane. $10 sale doesn't hurt. TV show that's popular doesn't hurt. Like, all those things contributed, but it's fun to see them with a 5-year-old game that honestly still looks incredible. And that thing is not aged. It looks amazing. To see them riding that kind of late 5-year later success as we get close to the release of their big next flagship thing is kind of fun to watch. So yeah, I'm jazzed about all of it. Yeah.
I grinched out a little bit on Twitter a couple of days ago. I was like, people were amazed that it had a higher concurrency than at launch, but it's like, it's probably the most celebrated game of the previous generation. If you had to ask most people what the best game is. I think you'll end up with this one getting the most votes. It's the best game, quote unquote, of the generation for many people. It's been on sale many times. Like it's kind of everyone owns it. Most people have played it, and now there's this buzz around it. It's not that surprising that a lot of people who have been, there are people who have been buying it for 5 years now. Of course, it's the concurrency is going to be, well, not of course, but it's not that surprising that the concurrency, when there's that much buzz around it, it's going to be higher than at launch, because it became the hugest game ever. Well, not ever, I shouldn't say that, but one of the biggest games, not at launch. It was huge at launch, but it was, over the next few months and couple of years that people started realizing how huge of a success it was. So I understand I'm being a little bit of a curmudgeon here, but it's like, it's not that surprising it's higher than at launch. Like everyone has been buying it for the past 5 years. So I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but thought I'd mention
the big thing for me is this is a game that doesn't have microtransactions, a game that doesn't have game as a service stuff. It had a couple of DLCs, but this is now the game of the year version with everything. And that's how it's been since like 2016. I guess it's just kind of proof that a game company can make really great single player focused games without worrying about all the microtransactions, loot boxes, games as a service, all of that stuff. This still can be done and be just incredibly popular long term. Not that you can't add those other things too. I think GTA 5 is a good example of extending the life of a game and making it relevant for years and years and years. So they certainly could, but I just think it's, everybody who's like, well, I guess we can't do anything but this new free to play ad loot box nightmare of a world we've created. And I think it's just not true. I think it can be done. They're the exception. Maybe that proves the rule. I don't know.
I think, they're militant about this. Like, we do it for the gamers, like for our players, we love you. And they're militant about doing it without microtransactions, without screwing people over. And certainly that's commendable. And the expansions you've mentioned, Blood and Wine is like an entire new game. It's super long, super well done. So that's certainly an excellent thing. I do want, again, not to Grinch out, I do want to mention that they get a lot of money from the Polish government, and they pay their employees Polish rates, which are lower than in most countries, and they work people to the bones, which other people do as well. But crunch at CD Projekt is notably terrible. So that doesn't take away anything of their achievement and the quality of the game and their respect for gamers. But it's also important to mention that, I think, when you talk about all of those great things, which
it's a fair point. Yeah, at what cost do they have this status?
It's just a different setting. But anyway, Cyberpunk 2077 is probably going to be huge, already contender for the game of next year, and a strong one, even though we haven't really seen a lot of it. We've seen a few demos, a few trailer reels, and also, John Wick is in it. So that's in itself a win.
What else can you ask for than John Wick, right?
May is again a big one for two games mainly. On the 19th we get Wasteland 3, which a lot of people are going to be excited about. On the 15th, Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers. And on the 29th, my personal probably game of the year and of all life, The Last of Us Part 2. So that's a big month as well.
Oh, we didn't mention, sorry, I have to give some props. So you've heard of the game Shogun Warriors
Total War?
No, they just had a huge sale and they've been doing well themselves now on Game Pass. It came out a while ago, but anyway, the old Commando games is basically this, but set in a Shogun universe. And it's a very good game. It came out in 2015, 16, something like that. Probably my favorite game of that year, of 2016, I think is the year. And it's amazing. It's been on sale recently. It's a very good game. Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun. That's it.
Okay.
Shadow Tactics, Blades of Shogun. The guys who made that, and that game is currently like overwhelmingly positive on Steam, which is not an easy thing to do. And I highly recommend it if you haven't played it. They are making a third game in the Western series. I forgot the name of the damn game. Well, this is great for the show. Desperados 3. That's it. They bought the IP and they're making a Desperados game, and it is in the vein of what they did with the Shogun game. And I could not be more excited. That got delayed. It was supposed to be this year or last year. It'll now be in April. Of all of the April things you've mentioned, 100% the one that's most interesting to me is
really
that game. Yeah, way more than any of that other stuff, except maybe Cyberpunk. I mean, they're going to probably argue with each other about what I like better, but I am such a sucker for like real-time tactics games, and I just find them incredibly creative.
So not Gears Tactics then. This one.
Yeah, that will not be the one I care as much about. I mean, I'll play it, but I almost forgot. Yeah, for me, it's Desperados 3. That thing is going to be bad. Yeah. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to derail your month there in May.
Well, of all the months to derail, that is the easiest one to do so with. So Avengers and The Last of Us Part 2, unless you have a hidden love for Wasteland 3. But what do you think? Are you... I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 is probably a lock for a lot of people. Avengers feel like more of a... how good is it gonna be, really? I'm not sure.
There's a lot of questions around that game, but I'm hopeful. I'm just not convinced that it's going to be all that just yet, but I really hope it surprises everybody and blows our minds. That would be a wonderful thing.
I think, I don't think it's going to blow anyone's mind. I think that ship probably has sailed. I will say, in the same vein as Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it doesn't need to be an incredible game because it gets points for the franchise anyway. It gets points for the franchise, which is fine. It's okay that you're excited about a game that's not as good as another one, but it's in a franchise you like. And what I hope is that they make a competent Destiny-like... I don't know that it's going to be Destiny-like, but like game as a service is what it seems like it's going to be mainly. There's going to be a single-player campaign, but the main draw of the game is going to be that long-term thing. And I don't know exactly how they're going to achieve it, because you just earn like better stuff for your Iron Man. Like you have better repulsors, and the Hulk has better purple trunks, and like I don't know how that's going to work to get character progression in there, but if it's just a fun game, that might be enough because it's Avengers. So for me, my bar is a little bit lower than it would be for, if it wasn't the Avengers, if it was just, I don't know, the superheroes world, or even like if it was Watchmen with the same kind of thing, and you could play like weird Lube Man, which never got an explanation for what he was. Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm still excited for it, but I understand why I am and why others might not be. But we still don't know a lot about it. I've found the what we've seen of the story part of the game, at least in the the cutscenes and the narrative aspects of it, seem very compelling to me. The acting is top notch. The situations seem compelling. The fallen Avengers, and then there's this young girl, Kamala Khan, who comes and tries to get them back together, or motivate them, and they're arguing. And I don't know. I think it could work on that aspect as well.
Yeah, I have hopes for that. I hope they can get it right.
You seem very cautious when you say it.
I am cautious. I really am cautious. I mean, and by the way, we're having a reliving of the last generation here with Last of Us Part 2. They took so long to get this out that it's now coming out in the very tail end of a console cycle, just like Last of Us Part 1 came out at the tail end of the PlayStation 3 cycle. And that drives me crazy because I know right around the corner, Last of Us Part 2 is going to be remastered for PS5. Maybe even for people who purchased the first one, it'll just play up there in up-res, or I don't know, but that annoys me. I always want it for the new hardware. Drives me crazy. Like, you may as well. I know what they're doing because they are going to sell a ton twice. That's why they're confident in doing such a late stage release. And I'm sure that game will be amazing. The first one didn't really grab me. The story did.
Did you play it to the end?
I played most of it and then watched
Okay.
someone finish it on YouTube because I can't stand the gameplay in that game.
Well, I worry that that's going to be the same then. The gameplay seems fairly similar, improved a little bit different, but it's the same core mechanics, so it might not be for you again. But the story could be. I will say one thing. It seemed like they are leaning into the darkness of the game a lot, maybe even more than the first one, which was already kind of dark. But I wonder if either me or the world are in the same, in a spot where we can enjoy that as much. So we'll see how that lands. But I will buy it twice. I'll probably buy it. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because it might end up being disappointing. It's not one of those games where, I mean, I know I'm going to buy it once at least and play it a lot. There could always be a disappointing thing that happens there, but if it does, then I will be, I don't know, I'll have psychological like PTSD of for The Last of Us Part 2 not being good.
Yeah, I mean, that game's already good at giving people PTSD of some sort. Like, it's not a fun romp or anything, but it'd be a real bummer if it sucked. So
the one thing I hope for is that they do away with the constant ladder mechanics. Those who have played the first one, because I love the game, but it's certainly not a perfect game. There are a lot of issues with the game and the core elements of it. Like the exploring is fine, narrative aspects is tremendous, amazing, best of the world. Combat I really enjoy, but that traversal type thing with the ladders and that's fine. It was okay, but I could do without. Yeah. So that's it for May. In Q2 at some point we should get Dying Light 2, which is interesting. In summer we get Ghost of Tsushima. And then we get into essentially what happens around that time is E3. And with E3, we're going to get a lot of other things probably for the new generation. I do want to mention, unless you have very strong things to say about Dying Light 2 and Ghost of Tsushima.
Other than Ghost of Tsushima, again, late cycle release irritates me.
I'm buying it so much.
Yeah, it's actually any of the PlayStation / Xbox exclusive stuff that isn't being ported to PC annoy me because, in the case of Dying Light 2, I can get that on the PC and I'm not, big deal. That's great. I'm already sort of on a continuing next generation, but I just don't make me buy I don't want old consoles playing my new games.
They're not old yet. We don't even know everything about the new ones, and the new ones aren't available. They're not old, Scott. Be strong.
The new ones will have hardly any load times and be extremely fast at like getting into games and
have ray tracing and stuff. Well, we'll get to that.
I know enough. That's the problem.
So many things that are not announced yet that might show up around E3 and possibly be announced at the very minimum as dual releases for the current and next generations, and possibly next generation exclusive is very unlikely because they want to have the install base to sell those games a lot. They're pretty big games. And some of them are Nintendo games, so they would show up on Switch. So some of them very unlikely, some of them more likely. Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, very unlikely, but they might make an appearance somewhere. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wilds 2, Metroid Prime 4 maybe, Bayonetta 3 possibly. Watch Dogs Legion still doesn't have a release date, I believe. It's been pushed back. Assassin's Creed, whatever that Nordic thing ends up being called, Ragnarok Kingdom. We've heard a lot of different names, but that is something I'm really excited about. Skull and Bones, another Ubisoft project. Rocksteady has a possibly Batman, maybe Justice League game in the cooker. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has gone silent for a while. I don't think it's anywhere ready to ship, but we might hear more. Spelunky 2, a lot of people are waiting for. Hollow Knight Silk Song. Elden Ring has people jumping up and down. We have Flight Simulator that is going to be coming probably on the next generation. A new Call of Duty. So all of those things. And of course, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Halo Infinite, which we don't know anything about either besides the title and a couple of minor details. All of those could be really huge, and some of those could be launch games for the new consoles, at the very least as dual releases.
Yeah, totally possible. I think you're absolutely right on the Bethesda stuff. There's no way we get those this year. I just can't see it.
We
But
might
I think
see
we will.
something. They don't have a lot of big things coming anymore, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, after Doom Eternal, that's it for them for the
Yeah.
year. If they don't show something else, you're right. It's entirely possible. Like the year that they released Fallout 4, that caught me off guard because we knew there was a new Fallout coming. But when they announced it at E3, they said, and it's coming out this fall. I went, what? Oh, holy crap. So it's entirely possible that an Elder Scrolls 6 or maybe Starfield could happen. But the way they were talking about it on stage this year was like, yeah.
well, it was last year they were talking about it. They didn't mention them, and they have mentioned that Starfield should be coming out first after Elder Scrolls 6, and we haven't seen. I'm sorry, I mean before Elder Scrolls 6, and we've seen nothing of Starfield. Like really, just a logo. That's it. So it would be very surprising if it came out before 2021 at the earliest, but tons of things. I mean, we're 97% sure we're going to see a new Assassin's Creed. And given the success of Odyssey, which has gotten into many, many players' hearts, including mine, that is something that I'm very much looking forward to. And there's a bunch of other games there, but we don't know anything about them. So we're not going to spend too much time with those.
Sure.
Halo Infinite, I'm curious about. It could be, again, game as a service type of thing. And
yeah, I have interest in that, especially given the potential for the PC base of it.
You're old PC now.
I really am. I've gone so hard. This is what happens though every generation. I get to this stage and I am just so hard PC and so annoyed with last generation consoles, or I'm sorry, current generation until these new ones come out. That I do this every time, and it's a me thing, and I totally admit it. But I, for whatever reason, just have a feeling that Halo Infinite will have greater success given its cross-platform stuff going on. And by the way, one of the reasons I think that the new Call of Duty is doing so well is that as well. And it tells you you're playing with a PlayStation guy, you're playing with Xbox people, you're playing with PC people. You can see who you're playing with and against at any given time and what controller they're using, if they're using keyboard and mouse or not. We are finally getting to a place where that stuff is no longer a barrier.
Yeah.
And I think that Microsoft, if anyone will benefit the most from all of this, it'll probably be them. So
yeah, I think Call of Duty is getting that success because it's a really good version of Call of Duty. But
it's really good. Yeah.
All right, so a few tidbits from CES and other things on all of the platforms. Sony has sold 14 million PS4s this year. That's a lot. For this generation. The PS5 logo has been revealed and people are making fun of it because it's essentially the PS4 logo with a 5 instead of a 4. I think, there's something to be said about the consistency, and I guarantee you that if Microsoft could have named the Xbox, the current Xbox, the Xbox with a number, they would have. The problem was when they released the 360, it was the second one, and they would have called it the Xbox 2 if it hadn't been coming out at the same time as the PlayStation 3. And you never want to have something with a lower number than your competitor. And I'm almost certain that's why they didn't go that route, and why now we have this weird it's the Xbox brand, and if they could have done the same, they would have. I think. Anyway,
I think so too. It's a thing. I bet in retrospect they look back at it and go, "Oh, what are we thinking?" Yeah.
There might be a new Switch model coming in 2020. We've been saying that for a couple of years, so maybe 2020 will be that year, even though Nintendo is saying not at all. There was a fun concept PC/Switch game from Alienware at CES. That's essentially a PC they crammed into a tiny tablet with controllers that are similar to the Switches that attach to the side. We have so few details about this. It's basically a tablet PC that's tiny, and with controllers. That's the whole concept. It works, but we don't have any idea about the power, the battery life, or anything like that. So I'm not too excited about it. I think the concept is cool, but I don't know that the execution will be all that compelling if it ever actually comes out. Google has bought another studio to work on games, and oh boy, just as a wrap up of the launch of Stadia, they have continuously exceeded my expectations for how much they would botch that launch. It was incredible. Like, games are more expensive, and like the core is still, I still say that the core is very healthy and very compelling, but everything around it is completely crappy. We'll see what happens when it goes actually like free to access. And Facebook has been has acquired a cloud gaming startup called Play Giga, a Spanish company. And that's really interesting because throughout this cloud gaming early times, I've been saying there are 4 companies in the world that can do this because they have the servers: Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook. But of course, Facebook is not interested in that, except now they are, apparently, or maybe they're at least exploring. It's a 70 million euros purchase. That's a lot of money, even for Facebook, if you're just, if you want to see if that would be possible. So they might have a service coming as well. So that's a lot of numbers and data. Anything that catches your eye?
I mean, for me, that stuff's really fascinating to watch. For me, the big thing will be, what does in the case of Stadia, what does that look like in 2020? And it needs to look better. It needs to look a lot like they're super committed and are not just giving us a weird beta product. They need to do
you're not gonna have to purchase something or to pay a subscription to access it, for one. So on top of buying your games, which is going to change everything. But
which is the part I hate. It's not that. Here's the problem. A lot of people have the impression that Stadia was supposed to be, or might still be, this sort of Netflix for games. So you'll pay some fee and then you'll get a bunch of games. And that may be true down the road, where there's just a lot more free games that come with the paid tiers. If that happens, I am more interested, because I don't mind paying a subscription for access to games, even if they rotate in and out. I'm fine with that. I do it all the time with Game Pass and PlayStation Plus to some degree, and other stuff. So that isn't a problem, and I'll be all for that service. And that, to me, is how streaming game services will thrive, is when they've got a library.
Yeah. Well,
that's me spending $60 per game. That is ridiculous and dumb, and I'm never going to do it. There's no way.
We'll see how things go at E3, but it's very likely that both Game Pass from Microsoft is going to include xCloud to some degree, and Sony's PlayStation Now is possibly going to be beefed up a little bit if they need to. But I mean, I think people could still continue to undervalue the strength of Google having this accessible for free. Like, not for free, but from a browser. And they have a lot of power to advertise this and to showcase it on YouTube and all of this. And getting, like, as I've said before, a 2-hour demo of a game that you can launch and play just from your browser in half a second is super compelling. But of course, the others could do that too. But
no, everything about the service is compelling if it's a good value for the end user. And right now,
the commercial aspect is what.
Yeah, and Microsoft hasn't made this clear yet. But when they do make it clear what their plans are, I have a feeling that they're going to have
game over,
value.
Man. Game over.
Yeah, because that value will be more like something like, okay, well, you can stream it the way Stadia does. That's cool. Oh, did you purchase the game? Cool. You can play it that way, or you can download it to the hard drive of your device, and you can take it places with you, like your PC and other stuff. So that to me is already a more compelling service, and I also think they have, I don't know, they've got just more experience in the business. Like,
certainly, Microsoft looks like. From here, it looks like Microsoft is going to be the clear winner of that cloud gaming battle that is coming. But it's going to be a few years before that is established in many people's homes. So we'll see. And you're not going to buy that Alienware UFO thing, PC Switch.
Unless
summarizes the entire opinion about this.
They would have to really blow me away with price, with capability, I mean, if you're just saying play your Steam, play your PC library on the go, Windows 10 running on that thing, there's no way.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's Windows 10, and then the games aren't designed for a tiny screen, and you're going to have a whole bunch of issues. And, I want to say the battery life is a problem, but really the Switch, the first model, which I have, has like 3 hours of battery life on a demanding game. So I hope that thing would at least get 3 hours. But if it does, then it's probably not going to run all the games that you would want to run because they're not available on the Switch because they're too power hungry. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a fun concept, but I don't know that it actually works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for looking to 2020. I do want to talk about a bunch of games I've been playing. Over the break, I've crammed as many games from last year that I didn't try into my free time. And I played a bunch. So I will talk a little bit about those. First, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. From Software, one of those Dark Souls type things. I mean, everyone knows Sekiro. I played, all of those I played maybe about 10 hours. Sekiro is not a game for me. I beat Lady Butterfly, which is one of the toughest bosses in the game, according to what everyone's been saying. I beat I think 3 bosses total. I understand it's just not fun for me, and it's great that it's fun for a lot of people. I don't quite understand why it's not fun for me, but when I finally beat her, I banged my head against the boss fight for hours, as everyone does. But when I beat her, I didn't feel like that elation of having achieved something. I felt like I was, I was like, fuck you, fuck your mother, fuck your father, fuck all of your family and everyone you know. I hate you and I never want to talk to you again or see you. Like, that's the feeling I had. Like, it wasn't like, even like, yeah, I got you, it was awesome. And I think I thought about it a lot. And sorry for cursing if you're listening with children, I apologize. But that's, sometimes cursing is appropriate. And that is the moment that it felt appropriate for me. And I think it's
children
because...
gather around the radio. Patrick's about to talk about
I apologize, sorry. But I think because I have played difficult games and enjoyed them before. I was thinking back, and a game like Celeste is really difficult, but I wanted to get through it, and I was really glad when I did. The Valkyries in God of War are exactly the kind of fight that you get in those From Software games. And I beat all of the Valkyries, and I liked it, even though it was hard. There was another game I can't remember that was also very difficult, and that the last levels of all Mario games, specifically the Odyssey one, is super hard, and it's exactly the same thing. Initially, you're banging your head against the level, and you die like in 2 seconds if you don't pay attention. And when I finished that level, I was like, yes, and I wanted to do it, and I spent hours and hours. And I think the reason why, I don't know that it completely makes sense, but that's the reason that makes the most sense to me, is that in all of those games, you learn skills that you then use in those encounters or fights, and there's a progression there. In Sekiro, the way I felt was that there were some of those skills, but also the bosses had specific patterns that you had to learn that were entirely different from everything you had done until then. And it's like you have a game that you learn, and then you kind of have another mini game of learning those bosses specifically, that if you don't know, you're going to die in 2 seconds. So it's like what you've learned can be useful, but also you have to learn something entirely different with each new boss. And that feels like a cheap way of doing. I understand it's not cheap, and I understand that the comparison doesn't exactly fit, but I think that's the closest to the way I felt about, to why I feel that way about this game. So I don't know. That's my report on Sekiro. I might play a little bit more, but and it's fine that it's not for me. Different people, different games. So many people enjoy those games so much, and I've often had experiences where I tried more on a game that I actually didn't like at all at first and got something out of it, something amazing. That was the case for, I guess, Celeste I did like from the beginning, but there are a few, including my game of the year last year, Outer Wilds, which I hated for the first 2 or 3 hours. Hated it. And now it's, so that's why I keep trying with From Software.
I still hate that game. I wish I liked that game. I still can't. I'm not there yet. And I know the world, everybody, you included, is telling me just to keep at it. And I may, but
I mean, just like me with Sekiro, maybe it's just not for you, but
might be. Yeah. I mean, that's why I want to play a Star Wars game, which I still haven't played, because it sounds like Sekiro without the hard. So I'm in.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. But there are some aspects of it which are fun. So Sekiro. I could spend a lot more time talking about it, but that's my feeling about it. I also played Children of Morta, which is
I love that game.
It is great. I thought you hated games where you have to redo the thing. Oh, it's the timers that you don't like. Okay.
No, I hate timers, but I love roguelikes where I got to start over but I get the little bit of something cool comes back with me. I love that. One of my favorite genres.
I will say I heard a lot about it. I think it's a great game. I didn't realize how Diablo it was. It's really a Diablo roguelite. And it's got a lot of other things going for it, but the Diablo aspect of it is great. I'm really enjoying that. And the game itself is really good. Great mechanics, compelling. You have game elements that make you switch between the different characters, which are really cool. And there are two things I would say that are a little bit of a knock against it. First, I think I'm over retro pixel games. Pixel art, I think it peaked with Dead Cells, and now I'm kind of, okay, I could live without more pixel art anymore. And then the first 3 levels, which you spend a lot of time in, are essentially color variations of the same thing. It's 3 caves, and it's the same thing over and over again with basically the same type of enemies. So that's a bit frustrating. But beyond that, the game is incredible. And it's only $20 or so on Switch. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I can't say enough about it. I love the story bits. I love the narration is really good. The VO is really good. Super compelling to follow what this family's doing. And like you said, the gameplay is Diablo-esque. I think it's great with a controller. I have it on PC, is where I've been playing it primarily. It's very, very cool. If you're looking for one of those, that is my favorite one of those this year, I think.
I will say I wasn't as convinced by the family story / dynamic, but it's okay. But everyone had been selling it so highly to me that I was like, oh, okay, the Bergsons, they're okay. They're a family. Sure. But yeah, it's cool. Bleak Sword is an Apple Arcade exclusive, so obviously playing it on my phone. Really cool game. Very cool. Bleak Sword. If you want to download it, Scott, get it now. To when you're going to be waiting later in the day in some office. It's kind of almost a little bit Dark Souls like. It's like precise controls, and it works really well with your finger. It's like not just pixel art, it's like 2-bit. It's black and white with those gigantic pixels, but it's got some interesting parallax thing that it does. The encounters, play sessions are really short, so adapted to a phone. There's everything in miniature of a cool precision sword fighting game with gigantic pixel art, which again, pixel art is not the thing I love the most these days, but the game is really compelling, and the pixel art is fine in that one. So
nice. I'm actually currently not. I unsubscribed for a month. Using it a ton, and now you're making me want to fire it up again.
I think you might like this game, and I think everyone would like this game. It's that promise of making phone games that are compelling for core gamers, and I think that one manages.
Sure. All right.
I've also played Ring Fit Adventure. There are 3 games I want to mention, which I only played for like an hour, so it's just really early impressions. Ring Fit Adventure is amazing. It is, I've heard a lot of people say, it's Game of the Year contender for last year. With just an hour into it, I think if I had played it more and played it last year, it would have made my top games of the year. It is so clever, so well designed. It's a real like the 2 parts, exercise and game, are obviously linked. Like you wouldn't play it if it wasn't to exercise, I don't think. But as a way to exercise and as a game in that context, it's really great. Like it's mind and something only Nintendo could do. Like a lot of companies and people have been trying to make exercise games, and none have succeeded really. This one actually manages. It is an incredible feat that they've managed to do that. I love it, and I'm going to play more.
Yeah, I heard amazing things about that, and they kind of were so low key about it. Like I feel like they didn't make a giant deal about the release of that thing, but it's a very cool concept.
It really works.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it to anyone.
All right.
I also tried A Plague Tale, and I only went through the first early introduction level. And A Plague Tale, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Such a pretty game. It's like I'm gonna play it more, but not a lot to say about it. But the mood and everything, like everything people have been saying about it, I guess the people are right. It seems like an amazing game. And I also want to mention Wolcen, which is a Diablo-like that's been in development forever in early access. I supported them on Kickstarter. It's a French company. So is, A Plague Tale. But supported them on Kickstarter, I think, 3 years ago. The game was called differently back then. It was like Luma, Solsa, something. But if you're itching for a Diablo game, it's kind of the illegitimate child of Diablo 3 and Path of Exile. And much simpler than Path of Exile, it seems, from what I've played now. It's coming out in February, actually, but early access is still available, of course.
Oh, they're that close? I may have to get that.
It was supposed to come out in a couple of weeks, but they've delayed by a couple of weeks, like now, 2 days ago, just to get that maximum level of polish. And it is like it's so much like Diablo. Like the UI is copy pasted from Diablo. It's like almost offensive, but it looks really cool. And if you're itching for a Diablo game, and maybe Path of Exile isn't quite your thing because it feels a little bit more hardcore, Path of Exile, I think this one might be something you might want to look at. It's definitely more complex than Diablo 3. It's got that, sprawling talent tree where you can go anywhere and become any type of class, essentially, but it's much simpler, much less intimidating than Path of Exile. And so it looks pretty good. It's coming out on February 13th, I think. So yeah,
I'm gonna have to pick it up.
And I did want to mention, by the way, about Children of Morta. The studio that developed it is an Iranian studio called Dead Mage, and they've been summoned to the court in Iran because they have gone against Sharia law in a number of ways, because the game feels extremely Western, like it's completely I'm going to say normal for lack of a better word, but there's no hint of it being a game developed by an Iranian. The things they're saying about it is essentially they don't show hijabs and stuff like that, that kind of thing. And it kind of sucks. I guess Iran has other fish to fry at the moment, but I hope they're okay, because that really sucks.
Yeah, that bums me out to even hear that. Eesh.
All right, last stretch. A couple of you wanted to talk about Call of Duty, but I guess we did say.
We kind of did. Yeah, it's just amazing. I can't say enough about it. And I would also just tell PC players should not feel afraid to try controller games as well. It turns out that game is incredibly optimized for a controller. Obviously, it's done so well on consoles. You can actually compete really well. And also, you hot PC people who think you're amazing with mouse and keyboard, there will be people with controllers online that will work you, and you'll have to be humbled and think about your priorities in life. So,
well, that's because they have aim assist. That's why.
That's right. They have a little bit of aim assist. It's not too much though. It's off by default, but it's not as nearly as much as what people think. It's a very good game. The matching's so much better than it used to be.
You really can't say enough.
That between that and Battlefront 2, I'm just having shooter time. It's really good.
I played the campaign and liked it okay, but you make me want to play it again. Too many games. We have too many games. All right, so a couple of big news items. Vince Zampella of Respawn Entertainment fame and talking about Call of Duty of Infinite Warfare fame is going to take the reins on DICE LA, which is a side studio from DICE, they're Swedish, I believe, and turn it into an independent studio, not just to support DICE. So that's going to be interesting, but I guess the success of Respawn being bought by EA, they want to get stuff out of that. Pokemon Sword and Shield is getting expansions, and that's, they usually release a new version of the game. That's not how they're going to do it this time. There are going to be 2 expansions. Bayonetta... Platinum Games, which develops Bayonetta among other things, is getting a huge amount of money from Tencent, so they're going to be able to do a lot of additional things, which they already did a lot, but I guess they're going to be able to do even more. And then, the regular additions, games you shouldn't miss. GTA 5 is coming to Xbox Game Pass, as well as Frostpunk, Sword Art Online, and a personal favorite of mine, Tekken 7. Probably the best fighting game right now. Tekken 7, you can try it for free if you have Xbox Game Pass.
Oh, that story mode is so stupid, though. I agree with you.
Of course it is.
It's the best fighting game on the market, 100%. Like, I love playing Tekken, but man, that story mode is bad, dude. It is so
Listen, the story mode is dumb could be the definition of Tekken. So, that's no big surprise there. It's, it's cheesy, but in a way that is acknowledgedly cheesy. Like, they know how cheesy it is, and like all of the family members stabbing each other in the back, and each one being worse than the other, and the grandfather and the grandson and the wife, and everyone wants to kill everyone. But it's fun, You sometimes you just want to throw your son in the volcano, and
who doesn't? Honestly,
listen, being the father of a 2-year-old who's full on in his terrible twos, I confirm that sometimes that is true. And finally, Twitch is offering 10 free games. If you've missed the 12 days of free games on Epic, well, those aren't as good, but you can get them now if you're a Twitch Prime member, which you are if you're an Amazon Prime member. There are a couple of games you might want to try. Enter the Gungeon, Ape Out. So yeah, don't miss those. It's in January.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that, because that was news to me this morning. I saw that on a feed, and I'm like, wait, 10 free games, let's go.
That's why we're here, to remind you of all of these things. And that is why you are, I don't know if that relates, but you are one of my favorite persons on the internet, Scott. If listeners figured, you know what, that's Scott Johnson, he's not too bad, where might I get me more of that? Where would they go?
If you're listening because you love video games, good news, because not only do I have multiple games shows about games, I have 2 games that are very specifically about games. One focuses on small indie games. It's called The Boop Show. You can catch that most Mondays at frogpants.com. You can also watch it live. There's a bunch of details there, so you can find it. If you want to have a deeper, longer, kind of hardcore discussion about games, the issues around them, the industry, the business, we do that on Core, which is over at frogpants.com/core. And then finally, Patrick and I hang out on a show together called The Instance. You may have heard of it. It's like 15 years old now. And that still happens over at frogpants.com. So lots to catch over there. And if you're just looking to poke me in the middle of the day, try me on Twitter. I'm at Scott Johnson.
That was amazing, Scott. For me, it's Not Patrick on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find this show at FrenchSpin.com. And that's about it. If you want to comment, go to that FrenchSpin.com site I just talked about. If you have a game you're expecting and hoping will be good, we didn't mention, please let us know. If you have anything to say about everything we said, either because we were incredibly clever or the opposite, please go to FrenchSpin.com again, or, on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram as well. I post pretty pictures regularly, and that's Not Patrick for all of those. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Bye.